Today we're going to take a look at 12 hidden gems that you might have missed. Hi, I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings, and these are excellent plants that I feel don't get enough attention. We're going to take a look at 4 perennials, 4 annuals, and 4 shrubs that are just wonderful plants that, a lot of influencers are talking about all these new plants, myself included, or just plants that are great that everyone knows about. But there's a lot of really good plants out there that don't get the attention they deserve. So let's go ahead and take a look at these 12 plants. And hopefully by the end of the video, there may be one that you're like, oh, wow, I have never heard of that one before. And that looks like an amazing plant. This also is a good time to point out if any of these plants that we talk about today are something that you would like to have in your garden. You can go to our website, gardencrossings.com, and we ship directly to your door. So obviously it's winter right now, or the off season. So we are taking pre-orders. So anything you see today would be something we would hold and ship to you at the appropriate time for your planting based on your zone. So let's go ahead and we're going to start off actually with annuals. I feel like annuals are one of those plants that really put on that magnificent show of color, and I feel like they get a lot of attention. And the first one on my list is actually the SUPERBENA Sparkling Amethyst Verbena. Now, this is a favorite of ours here at Garden Crossings, and part of the reason is it does well in the landscape, as well as in containers and in hanging baskets. It's a gorgeous bicolor bloom, so there's the purple and the white in it. And a lot of times with verbena, some of them can be kind of tricky. They get like thrip or spider mites, or they don't always look great. But this sparkling amethyst just looks fantastic all season long. Also, too, it's a continuous bloomer, so it will just bloom all summer. You don't have to do any deadheading to keep it looking good. It just keeps putting out more and more blooms, and just it really never has an off time at all during the summer season. And the color is very easily paired with your favorite petunias, Calibrachoa. Really, I mean, whatever your favorite annual is, sparkling amethyst pairs beautifully with any of them. It does like to be grown in full sun to part sun locations. And if you are watering it, we just recommend watering regularly and also giving it a nice dose of your favorite water-soluble fertilizer, which we really love the Proven Winners brand. It does a great job for us, keeps the greens greener, and it just keeps those flowers going all summer long. The next annual actually doesn't even flower. This one is a very amazing foliage plant, and it's called the CERVEZA in lime Plectranthus. Now, you may be wondering, what is so wonderful about this plant? I mean, you see the pictures, you see it's got really plump green leaves on it. They have a little bit of a fuzzy texture to it. But what's so awesome about this plant is just a light little blow in the breeze, or you walk past it and maybe ruffle it with your hand, and it emits the most amazing scent. Think of like margaritas. It smells just like a lime margarita. It's such a great plant, especially for those of you who like to create gardens for the senses. You have maybe grandchildren or kids of your own that you want to go out in the garden and just really enjoy it. This is a very fun plant for them to go kind of touch and smell and just really enjoy what it does to the garden. It gets about 14 to 18 inches tall and wide, creates kind of a nice big mounding habit, likes to be grown in sun to part sun locations, and it grows well in more your moderate to moist soil locations. But once it is established, it is fairly drought tolerant. And as I mentioned, it's the fragrance that really put this plant on my list as a must-have and kind of that hidden treasure. The next one we do talk about a lot, but not a lot of people talk about this plant, and that is the Macardonia Gold Dust. This plant has been an amazing staple in the landscapes here at Garden Crossings. We have used it for years now, and the massive color those tiny little yellow blooms give is just absolutely amazing. It gets about 2 to 5 inches tall, so it's a very low growing ground cover, and it can spread about 1 to 2 foot wide. Now, I don't know, we've tried it in a container before, and it doesn't do awesome. It just doesn't have the big fullness to it to look really great, in my opinion. So we find using it best, and where it's really doing an amazing job for color is in the landscape. It likes to be grown in full sun locations and is drought tolerant once it's established. So maybe you've used sedum lemon coral, which is an excellent plant, but just want something a little different for that mass yellow look. Try the gold dust. I don't think you'd be disappointed one bit. The next plant, it's a Lobularia. It's called Blushing Princess. This was introduced probably 10, maybe 12 years now. When it first came out, it got a lot of attention, but I feel like because it is a little bit older, that it doesn't get the attention that it still deserves. So it does look like alyssum. It's part of the alyssum family, but the difference between Lobularia and alyssum is alyssum comes from a seed. So usually alyssum will bloom and then it kind of stops blooming, and that's because it's going to seed. So basically it flowers. The next job on its plate is to produce a seed. Well, these Lobularia, they're sterile. They don't produce seed, so they have one job, and that is to continue to flower all summer long. Blushing Princess is kind of a unique one. So in the heat of the summer, the warmer it is, the lighter the flowers are. They almost present as a white. But in the spring or in the late summer, early fall, when the temperatures start to cool off a little bit, it really starts to change into kind of more of a deep, dark lavender color. So in the summer, a lot of people will say, Heidi, my Lobularia is not, or my Blushing Princess, it's not purple like it's supposed to be. Well, no, it's because it's hot. In the heat, it's white. But in those cool seasons, when it transitions to the lavenders and the purples, it is just absolutely breathtaking. As well as the gorgeous color it transfers into, or transforms into, it also is very fragrant. So if you're looking for a plant to put maybe in the border or in a container combination, Lobularia Blushing Princess is also a very fragrant plant to add in. It likes to be grown in full sun to part sun locations. It attracts the butterflies and the bees. And it too is very low growing, maybe 4 to 8 inches tall, creates just kind of a nice low growing mound, but it's a spreader. So one plant really does a large coverage in the landscape, spreads up to 1 to 2 foot tall. Now, when I say spreader, don't be afraid. It's an annual. I mean, it's the clump is just going to get bigger and bigger. It's not like it's going to spread and take over your garden. Definitely that's not how that plant works. The next series is going to be the perennials. We're going to look at 4 fantastic perennials that maybe have been overlooked by yourselves. And these are ones that I think, again, we love them in our gardens here. Some of these are newer or older, depending on when we're talking about varieties. But the first one I want to talk about is a Spigilla. So Spigilla has been out, well, it's been out for a very long time. It's an old plant, but Walter's Gardens brought it to the market probably 6, 7, maybe years ago. And when they did that, it really was a plant that was kind of a forgotten treasure, one that not many people had known about. And the nice thing with the little redhead is it's the colors of it are very vibrant with the red and the yellow, the nice spiky blooms on tall stems. So it's a great cut flower. Because of those tubular blooms, it's a great flower for the hummingbirds as well. It's also a native. So if you're looking to add some unique natives into the garden, Spigilla Little Redhead is a great native to add in. It's hardy in zones 5 to 9, and it's 24 to 28 inches tall, so kind of like that perfect perennial size, I would say. It likes to be grown in full sun to part sun locations, although it can handle some shade as well. Just I wouldn't recommend putting it in deep shade. It likes to be planted in moderate to moist soil. So there's where that kind of shadier area sometimes fits the bill really well, especially if you've got more of that moist part shade to shade area in the garden. And it's a great plant if you're looking to plant in mass. I mean, you can plant one and they're gorgeous, but if you're looking for just a mass of gorgeous color, Spigilla Little Redhead is such a beautiful plant. And it's something different, like something many of you, I'm sure, maybe have never heard of before. So if you're looking to add something different in, check out the Little Redhead. The next is the Polemonium Heaven Sent, also known as Jacob's Ladder. And this is a proven winter perennial. It's hardy in zones 3 to 7. So for those of you who are in the really cold climates, this plant is one that can take the cold weather. It gets 18 to 24 inches tall and wide, creates just a gorgeous little mound. It's got really beautiful olive green foliage, kind of sort of fern-like looking foliage. And then it gets these beautiful purple or lavender blooms late spring. And oh my gosh, they are so fragrant. Like I think like when I describe the smell of them, I kind of think they smell like grape. I don't know if somebody else is going to say something different, but to me, the smell is of grape and they're so fragrant, so yummy. And the spring blooms, you've got this nice foliage mound with these beautiful purple blooms that sit really nicely above the foliage. And it's just a nice plant that kind of wakes up the spring garden, gives it some early season color. When the flowers are faded, it has some nice foliage it leaves behind. So even though you're not having the flowering interest through the summer and into the fall, that olive green foliage and the texture of it is really nice to have as well. The next is a peony Bartzilla. So have any of you heard or seen peony Bartzilla before? This is an intersectional peony. So basically it's a cross between a garden peony and a Japanese peony. So you've got the really big, huge flowers of the Japanese peonies, but you have a lot of stalks and flowers of a garden peony. And it is yellow, really large yellow blooms. And I just think, man, if you're looking for peonies, I know peonies are very traditional. A lot of people have memories associated with peonies. Maybe their grandmothers grew them, maybe your mom grew them. But to have these yellow peonies in the garden it's so beautiful. And they hold up really well. Typically, they'll bloom for us here in West Michigan. We're a zone 6A. Usually around mid to late May, kind of depends on the season. If it's a warmer season, they'll bloom a little earlier. If it's colder, they'll bloom just a little bit later. But typically it's going to be that late May color. And when they bloom, I mean, like I said, those flowers are huge. So definitely they make their presence known when they start to bloom. They get about 2 to 3 foot tall and 2 to 3 foot wide. So they create a nice mound. When the flowers are done, it kind of looks like a shrub based off the size of the plant. It's deer and rabbit resistant. So if you're somebody that has those critters that tend to take out your plants, typically they're going to leave your peonies alone. Peonies also make a great cut flower and are fragrant. So a lot of the plants, I guess unintentionally, I really wasn't even trying to do this, but a lot of these perennials and annuals that we've looked at so far, they kind of have a common theme, and that's fragrance. So I think whenever you can bring some fragrance to the garden, that's just an added benefit to have. Amsonia storm cloud, when this one was first introduced, wow, this was such a cool plant. I absolutely loved it. And part of the reason why is because before it even starts to put on its foliage, it has fantastic black stalks or stems that emerge from the ground. So that's really cool. And then as it starts to put on its foliage and starts putting out its buds, it has beautiful periwinkle star-shaped blooms once it starts flowering. Usually it'll start flowering around May or so here in West Michigan, and it blooms for about 3 or so weeks, 4 weeks or so. But even before those blooms emerge, it's the stems that really start off the show of color for the Amsonia storm cloud. It's hardy in zones 4 to 6, and it gets about 24 to 30 inches tall and about 38 to 40 inches wide. It has kind of just a nice upright vase, kind of a V shape vase shape habit to it. And it attracts butterflies. It's also deer resistant. So if you're looking for something that, the deer will stay away from, Amsonia storm cloud, they really shouldn't bother. Also too, it can be grown in clay. So I know a lot of you struggle with clay soil and not sure of what you can plant in your clay. The Amsonia storm cloud should do fine in those clay areas. It's also native, and I think especially when you're looking to add plants to the garden, if you find things that are native, they tend to be just a little bit more resilient than some of the other plants. If you're a native plant, you have to make it out in the wild, and the wild is only giving you, what nature has. When it rains, you get your water. When it's dry season, it's dry. So anytime a plant kind of has a native or native root to it, it's just going to be just a little bit more hardy than other plants. We're going to next look at shrubs, and there's some real fun ones in here. The first one is kind of a fun one to say. It's a Deutzia, and it's Yuki Kabuki. Say that with me, Deutzia Yuki Kabuki. So Deutzia Yuki Kabuki gets, it's a nice Again, early season. What am I doing here? So many early season bloomers. But it's an early season bloomer. Usually will bloom in May or beginning of June or so here. It gets 2 to 4 foot tall, 2 to 4 foot wide, and you can trim it. It does bloom off of the previous season's growth. So if you do feel like you want to trim Yuki Kabuki, you would do so after it's done flowering. But it flowers, like I said, like late spring, early summer, and it's got really beautiful bicolor blooms. They're white and they're pink, kind of striped looking. And man, when this plant goes to flower, it is just full on flower, just a mass of gorgeous, gorgeous blooms. Yuki Kabuki holds its color better than some of the other variegated flowers of Deutzia. So you're going to see that pink and white variation better than some of the older varieties on the market. It likes to be grown in full sun to part sun location. It attracts pollinators. All those beautiful little flowers are attracting the butterflies and the pollinator bees. It can handle being grown in clay. It's really adaptable to most soil conditions, but it can handle clay. So if you've got clay in your garden, that shouldn't be an issue for it. So if you're just looking to add a nice low growing, mounding, I guess low growing is relative, right? But a nice mounding, just full of flower color shrub for your spring garden, Yuki Kabuki will definitely check that box. The next one is actually, it's a newer shrub and it's been talked about a little bit, but I don't feel like it's been talked about enough. And that is the Bloomerang Ballet Lilac. So we've talked about the Bloomerang lilacs before. They're known because they're a re-blooming lilac. So they usually will bloom in May here in West Michigan. And then throughout the summer, they have what I like to call spitter spatter blooms. So it's not going to be that full-on massive color like you get in May. You'll get a bloom here, a bloom there, just kind of blooming, which with lilacs, they're typically a spring bloomer. So anytime you can get those flowers throughout the summer and into the fall, it's kind of a bonus. But today, I never have said to myself, wow, that is an awesome rebloom. That is until this Bloomerang Ballet was introduced. So this has been probably a couple years now. It's been on the market. And I was actually in the trial gardens this October and it was blooming. And I was just absolutely awestruck with how many flowers it had in October for its rebloom. And this plant actually throughout the summer continually had a lot of flowers on it reblooming. So anytime you can get that fragrance of spring throughout the summer, that is absolutely a bonus. The Bloomerang Lilac Ballet likes to be grown in zones 3 to 7, so it's very cold tolerant. It's fairly compact. It only gets 3 to 4 foot tall and wide. So for a lilac, a lot of those old-fashioned lilacs, they get really huge. So this is going to be more of a compact habit for lilac. It does like to be grown in full sun. It's deer resistant. And as I mentioned, it's just got that gorgeous fragrance that you associate with spring. But as it flowers throughout the summer, it's just bringing back those spring memories until fall. Next, we have the Golden Ticket Ligustrum, also known as a privet. Now, this one I chose for its foliage interest. Now, it's got kind of a golden, yellow, chartreusey. It's got a bright foliage on it. So if you're looking to plant a shrub that is easy to grow, really doesn't take a lot of maintenance at all, but gives you the contrast to the other greens and such in your garden, the Golden Ticket is a great plant, great shrub for creating contrast in the garden. It's hardy in zones 5 to 8, and it can be grown in full sun to part sun locations. Now, the more sun it gets, the yellower, the more chartreuse it's going to be. But for those of you in like the really hot zones, you probably are going to want to go more part sun, and the full sun might be just a little much for it. So something to kind of keep in consideration when you're looking to place your Golden Ticket. It's got tiny white flowers. So the flowers themselves are tiny and white, but it does have kind of a spray of flowers, let's just say. And they're also fragrant. They're not super significant. Like pretty much I would say you're growing this plant for its foliage interest, not so much the flower interest. That's, again, my opinion. Deer resistant. And if you're just looking for that splash of golden interest, Golden Ticket is going to do that splash for you. And the last plant on the list is that Itea Fizzy Mizzy. So Itea Fizzy Mizzy is kind of a unique one. It's got these gorgeous white bottle brush flowers on them. But what's different from Fizzy Mizzy compared to some of the other Itea that we carry is that the flowers are very upward facing. So on like Little Henry and some of the others, they're kind of more droopy, where Fizzy Mizzy is definitely upward facing and in your face. Definitely a lot of flower in your face. Hardy in zones 5 to 9, so it's got a really good spectrum as far as cold to warm hardiness. It only gets about 2 to 3 foot tall and wide, so this is a nice compact shrub. You could plant one of them, you could create a border, just really versatile as to how you want to use it. It can be grown in sun to shade. So again, for those of you looking for some shade options, which I feel like sometimes it's really hard to find a good shade option, Fizzy Mizzy is one that can handle shade or sun. Now, it's going to take a little bit longer to get to size in the shade as it would in the sun, but I mean, really, does that matter? I don't think so. It does bloom on the previous season's growth. So if you're going to need to do any trimming, which you shouldn't because it's pretty compact, but if you feel like you need to do some trimming on it, we would recommend trimming it in the spring after it's done flowering. It attracts butterflies. It's another fragrant shrub. It's just got this nice soft fragrance to it. And it's native, so easy to grow, pretty versatile as far as where you can put it in your garden. And it's kind of one of those plants that is a twofer, in my opinion. It's got those gorgeous spring or early summer flowers, but in the fall, it gets really bright red and orange foliage. So it's got the spring or early season interest as well as the late season interest as well. So I don't know, Fizzy Mizzy, when I see our 3 Itea, we have Scentlandia, Little Henry, and Fizzy Mizzy. When I see all 3 of them blooming in the garden center, my eye is automatically drawn to the Fizzy Mizzy just because the way the flowers present themselves. Hopefully there was some new plants that you learned about today or didn't know a lot about anyways, and maybe something that you think you might need to add into your garden or into your landscape. If you have any questions or comments on any of these plants that we talked about today, please feel free to leave it down in the comments below. And if there is a series you want me to talk about this winter of plants, be it annual, perennial, or shrub, if there's some sort of if you're looking for clay or deer or rabbit or just something you're looking for, just leave that too in the comments below. I'll try to put together a list that I'll be able to hit some of the questions that you're asking in a future video. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.